If you are a person who is trying to grow your empathy or maybe trying to reinvent yourself in some way, those are really the biggest takeaways that I get from listening to stories like this. Check it out.
I've had a lot of highs, but I've had a lot of lows. I
Hmm.
actually used to be homeless in Las Vegas, where I'm currently at right now. I've been in this housing program. I moved into my apartment 2 years ago, and everything has just gotten so much better since then. Got a mischievous cat, grumpy cat, really. I go to school online
Hmm.
at Full Sail University. It's gotten better, but yeah, I've been on rock bottom a couple of times. I actually think I have a home there, but I'm not trying to dwell there. you know, it
Yeah.
was it was crazy being homeless, and it's a different atmosphere because I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder, major depression, PTSD, and bipolar 1. The bipolar 1 was kind of, there were signs of that when I was a teenager. My mom would always catch, my mood swings, and I wasn't
Hmm.
actually diagnosed with it until last year. So it's intense. When I have manic episodes, that's when things get really interesting. You'll
Yeah.
have like a lot of unexplained energy, like you just decide to rearrange your house in one night. I've taken some really unnecessary risks, and I've even disguised it as something like it was beneficial. Like to give an example, I was
Yeah.
living in North Carolina when I was 24. I lived in North Carolina for like 13 years. But then I decided that I was going to make a career change and move out to Los Angeles. I'd never been to California. And I just up and left 3 days journey, and I was by myself. I wasn't with anybody. I've been in hot water plenty of times. I just ended up in a club at one point, and I'm taking illegal drugs. That's the bipolar side. It feeds
Hmm.
into addiction. I've also a recovering addict. I haven't drank in 2 years. I haven't done any hard drugs in the past 4 years, but my bipolar was really, loving it. Another side effect to bipolar disorder is grandiosity. So my
Yeah.
ego is like inflated. It's like 10 times. And I'm in Hollywood and I'm young, and I was really crashing out. I ended up being in a relationship, and I believe my bipolar definitely made that decision. Drugs were being abused. I was doing things, and, God forgive me, but I was driving while impaired. I was doing a lot of things to get myself either killed or in serious trouble. I just
Hmm.
don't make good decisions when I'm manic. And, like just recently.
Hey, real quick, if you are the kind of person who probably needs therapy, it's me, but would rather listen to a podcast, then subscribe to the show. This is the place where we talk about our necessary delusions, a made up concept, but I believe that we all have them, the ideas that we use to get out of bed in the morning, the fantasies that we let propel our lives forward. So, as you are listening to this story, try to recognize the necessary delusions that are being told. And if you're looking to build some empathy, I would also try to recognize a piece of yourself in the storyteller and in the story. Enjoy now my conversation with Asher.
2 months ago, I was actually assaulted on the bus. And that was around the time that I really started asking the question, because I have friends and I talk to them, and we talk about life problems like, oh, this person's being a jerk at my job, or I'm thinking about getting another job. But then there's me who's just like, yo, like I just got assaulted on the bus, and this crazy thing happened where I was almost arrested. And I was like, yeah, my stories are like really different. you know I got parking tickets like crazy when I was in Los Angeles. My first year while I was out there, I pretty much was spending a lot of money paying off parking tickets. But fortunately, I never
Hmm.
got into any type of where I was arrested for assault or any of that. But it gets really close at times. Because of this disorder, a lot of people don't really understand it, and then it doesn't help that I'm still learning it. So it
Right.
was definitely fast paced, and I was crashing out before crashing out really has become a thing. Um, and I would come here to Las Vegas because not long after I moved out to LA, a sibling of mine moved out here about 6 months after I moved out to LA. And then I would find myself coming up here to kind of like get some headspace. And eventually I was just like, you know what, like you have to get out of this relationship. And I was just going downhill rapidly. My initial reason why I went out there was because I wanted to make music, and I also wanted to dabble in filmmaking, but I was so far off from my goals, what I had set for myself. It's like LA kind of really fed into my bipolar.
Life has got to be moving at a real fast clip when Las Vegas is like your peaceful place that you go to get some clarity, right?
I even thought that thought crossed my mind a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, just to think that at one point I was coming up here to get some R&R. I mean, it was okay, but Las Vegas, unfortunately, has kind of gotten pretty rough over the past couple of years since the pandemic. And I've been trying, honestly, to go back home to England, even though the last time I lived there was when I was 10 years of age. And but something always comes up, like, you know, the assault on the bus. So it's still ongoing. Because the person who did it fled before the police came. So and then, you know, I ended up getting a detective assigned to the case, and the detective actually was off the days afterwards for like 3 or 4 days. And during that time, there was a picture taken during the incident. And my mother was like, go on a local Facebook page and see if anyone recognizes the attacker. And a lot of people actually ended up messaging me with what he does for work, what his name is, you know, and he even had a little girl with him when he did this. So they were like, yeah, we know about the little girl and everything. And the detective didn't tell me that he was off for 3 days after being assigned to the case. So during that time he was off, I have all this information. And when he got back, I gave the information to him. And then the next day he called me and said, well, I got the video footage. And then it completely went left field when he was like, and when I saw the video footage, you ended up slapping the attacker twice, which led into the attack. And I was like, that is not how I remember these events unfolding at all. So now I'm really losing my mind, because I'm just like, you know, I haven't been on the bus in 3 months. I'm trying to take it like, you know, step by step, little by little. You know, the furthest I go is to the trash can to throw out my trash, or the dumpster. So, you know,
you're not really going out?
No, I've pretty much been in my home, working, you know, going to school, and you know, as far as like groceries and stuff like that, I get it delivered. You know, I'm not really trying to go out, because it's like, you know, people really are, and it is, I mean, it is a scary disorder, but people aren't really understanding to begin with. So asking someone to understand bipolar disorder is kind of a stretch, you know. And so
How long have you been staying home like that for?
Since it happened. Yeah.
This has been how long? You said like 3 months or so?
Yeah. I've been home for the past 3 months. So yeah.
Is it comfortable for you to stay home like that? Do you miss going out? Do you miss seeing people, or are you sort of enjoying the solitude?
I'm you know, I've kind of built this up as like my fortress of solitude. I was starting to make my apartment mine, because the program that's helping me out with my living situation, there are days where they're being told, or I'm being told rather, that they'd lose funding. And I'm like, man, I might be homeless for a third time, because that, you know, I've actually been homeless twice here in Las Vegas. So that thought, and then I was like, you know, by you not making this apartment your home, by not decorating it, by not putting, you know, things into it, furniture and stuff like that, you're kind of giving that possibility, that energy, you know. And so I'm just like, I've been really making this space my own. So it's now become me. I'm seeing a reflection of me in my surroundings.
Yeah.
So what's really been helping me is not only taking my medications and talking with my psychiatrist and therapist, but also going to support groups too. So, yeah.
Asher, talk to me about I think you said before that you feel like you have a home at rock bottom.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
unpack that? What does
Um,
that home look like or feel like, or why do you say that?
I mean, it's been rough. I've experienced a couple of things, and I've experienced the loss of loved ones, friends. Growing up, like, because back then, like, I was born in 1988, so during the 90s and all that, our parents. I'm not saying they didn't have mental health issues. My parents had mental health issues, but it was very taboo. You didn't talk about it the way we talk about mental health today. So
Right.
they just pretty much just went with it. So, my upbringing, my father, who passed away 5 years ago, he was not only bipolar, but he was also an alcoholic. So there was abuse in the household. And, but as a family, we just stuck it out. And I know that sounds strange because how the hell do you stick that out? But it kind of was, to a certain extent. I mean, when we retired from the military in North Carolina, um, that's when it really got worse with my father. Like, he was fortunate, we were all fortunate that he was able to get a job right after the Air Force, right after leaving the military, because not many people have a hard time once they get out of the military to find a job. And he ended up finding a job, but he was starting to get really worse. The drinking was getting really bad. And one thing that I say about alcohol, if a mental health could be like a liquid or a substance, um, alcohol is basically like bipolar disorder. It doesn't help whatsoever. It basically makes things way, way, way worse. And so things had gotten so bad, and I was transitioning to public school. I'd always went to school on a military base, and I
Hmm.
had friends who were Hispanic, Black, white, Korean. We didn't care about these things, but when I went to public school in North Carolina, I was getting a lot of stick, primarily from Black girls, about my race. They
Hmm.
didn't like the fact that, if I immediately started saying, well, yeah, my dad's Black and he was born in Philadelphia, it was immediately like, no, you're not Black. And it started eating at me so much to the point that I actually, while my father is like going ape shit, I ended up taking a couple of days off school because I knew I needed a comeback of some kind. And I figured it out when
Yeah.
I, took a couple of days off. And so the next time I went to school, and that question, because it was asked so frequently, um, someone would say, well, what's your race? And as soon as I'd start to say Black, and then they would shoot it down, that's when I would come back and say, well, if you knew the answer to the question, why did you ask me? you know and that did help. It after a while, the question wasn't being asked so much. And
Hmm.
just and during that time, one particular school day, or the actual last time I went to that school, I was called to the front office, and they said that my mother was there to pick me up. And I didn't know that, unbeknownst to me, while I was in school that day, our mother had went and talked to my father's mother and told her what had been happening, to where my grandmother actually talked to a real estate agent and put a down payment on a house on the other side of town. So while I was in school that day, my mother and my sibling were packing up the house and in a U-Haul, and that's where we were going. And so my father literally came home to an empty house. And after we had got settled in the new house, that's when my sibling was saying, yeah, when we were packing stuff, like, you had to have been there, because when we were clearing the house, they were finding alcohol bottles in every single corner of the house. So
Yeah.
it was getting pretty violent. Things were getting broken, doors were getting smashed, and that's kind of how my story began. But I don't I don't want that to be my story, you know. That's primarily
Yeah.
why I'm taking this so seriously, because like I said before, I do desire having a better quality, and just because it started off that way doesn't mean it has to end that way. So yeah.
But I guess that's why that's the answer to why you said you feel like you have a home at rock bottom, is because that sort of scenario is familiar to you. So you sort of know how to navigate that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It was rough. It was definitely rough. And I mean, it didn't get any better really once my parents separated, because then I started noticing my mom was having some type of life crisis. And, you know, and I can understand. I mean, she was married to my father for 20 years, and he was very, like I said, violent and abusive. And she kind of just loved the fact that she was single. So I didn't want to make her feel guilty. I'm just like, yeah, go live your best life. I can only imagine like you were tied down. But things started getting rough between my sibling and our mother. It was, you know, mental health has impacted my family quite a lot. Childhood traumas,
Yeah.
all types of traumas. And I've just been trying to mosey on in life, going to school, getting jobs that I hopefully could make careers out of, and learning about my mental health issues in the same process. So, yeah.
Asher,
And
talk to me about music.
music is like, you know, my father and I, that was what we really bonded over the most. He actually
How so?
introduced me. Well, he used to, like, when we lived in one of the Air Force bases when we were in the military. We had a basement in our house, and he had like this amazing speaker system at the time. And he introduced me to hip hop, Run DMC, um, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, you know, inappropriate for 5-year-olds to listen to, but I didn't care. I was like, this is awesome, you know. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
been there. Like, even when I was homeless the second time, the first time I was homeless in Las Vegas, I was between my car and a storage unit. I kind of had a run in with a bad roommate, and that's how I pretty much ended up in that situation. But the second time, I didn't have a car. I was in shelters at the Salvation Army and other places around the city. And I, instead of like waiting until the shelter opened up in the evening, I had time to kill, and I was just walking around the neighborhoods. And as I was on my way back to the shelter to check in to see if I could get a bed, um, you know, I was literally in my head, and I was like, is this because I like music? Did music lead me down this path? And all these terrible things are happening because of music. I just started blaming music. And as I was on my way
Why?
back to the shelter, I just don't know. I just feel like, because like when I moved from North Carolina to LA, in North Carolina, the same drugs that I ended up taking in Los Angeles were available to me in North Carolina. And I wasn't taking
Mm-hmm.
music, when I thought of music, I was taking it so more seriously when I incorporated moving to LA. And so when I was in North Carolina, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
taking those drugs, but when I was in LA, I was. And I was like, and this is like coincidentally around the time that I'm really trying to put my music out there. So I really started
Yeah.
blaming music. I was like, is this because of that? And, you know, is this what people expect of musicians? You know, we do drugs, we drink or whatever. And I started blaming it. And
Mm-hmm.
when I was on my way to the shelter that evening, I was passing a bus stop, and there was no one at this bus stop except for me. And right there on the bus stop, on the seat, there was a Bluetooth speaker. So, you know, that kind of quieted the voice in my head, and was just like, that was a sign from the universe. Like, no, it's not music. And I can see why you would think that, but it's really got me out of times, whether writing it, whether playing it on an instrument, whether making a beat. I zone out from all of my problems. I try to forget rock bottom as much as I can, or I don't even have to forget. Music is just like, forget it. You know, it's we're not going to talk about it. So, um, it saved me from a lot of, trauma. And when I create music, I'm in a different headspace. And when I have my manic episodes, it seems like that's where I'm most creative. And so, it helps to be working on music, because manic episodes, as I've been saying, it leads to very dark places. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad that that story ended with a sign from the universe telling you that music wasn't the negative thing. It was like, it was honestly in a story with a lot of dark areas, that was like a bummer twist to hear that you
Yeah.
had started to pair your passion with this like shame or this like thing that, it's like,
Yeah.
don't take that away from yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Asher, is there a place where we can find your music if we want to listen and follow you?
Yeah, SoundCloud. Um, it's been a couple of days since I've been on it, and I forgot my username. It's usually ASON MC, ASON MC. I have a lot of music tracks up there, and
Mm-hmm.
that's primarily where I upload. I also do have a YouTube channel as well, and I do have a track as of last year that's on Apple Music and Spotify. When it should have been a red flag that things were getting definitely worse when I started questioning my passion, when that's been the only thing that's gotten me through really difficult times. So, um, but yeah, it's
I
back.
feel like it's two different things though. You know what I mean? To me it's like it's sort of two different things. It's like your passion to make the music, the actual like artist part of it, and then the like desire to push yourself as an artist and be seen and like, do you know what I mean, get your music out there. Those are like it's like one is, not to say that it's bad for you to be putting your music out there, but like that's the ego part, right? Is like, I
Yeah,
have to share this, but it's like the making the music for yourself is like the probably the really healthy part, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, even it's been a whirlwind 2 years. I mean, I'm very grateful that I have my home, because I was in rehab. I did go to rehab for about 8 months. And while I was in there, I was meeting other individuals who were also artists or making music as well. And after that, I mean, when I was in rehab, I had my laptop, I had my microphone, and I was working on music while I was in rehab. And I was fortunate to cross the
Wow.
path of a friend of mine. He was a hip hop artist, and we were making music, but it was kind of hard because our living quarters, I had like two other roommates. So, and the same with him. So he actually went up to the head of the staff and was like, "Hey, we're musicians, and this is what takes our mind off of our addictions and helps us with our mental health disorders. And if you could leave one of the rooms once you're done for the day, can we have access to the rooms?" And the head of staff was like, "Absolutely. Like, if you guys want to record music." So we ended up recording 2 tracks in there. And I really was looking forward to working with him some more once I got settled in my apartment. But unfortunately, in November of last year, he took his life. So, and he really had
Sorry
a
to hear that.
talent. Yeah, it's been rough, but like I said, going to support groups and even your podcast, like when I saw your ad, I was like, talking is therapy. And so this is a wonderful opportunity. I really appreciate this. um but yeah, like when I was in rehab, music was getting me through. And um we were often talking about how cool it would be if the rehab actually had like a music studio in there, because obviously musicians,
Hmm.
we have moments like that. So, but yeah, I mean, that could be
Yeah.
considered rock bottom,
Asher, if I could push you,
Yeah.
sorry, I wondered if I could push you for a little piece here. I wonder if you could, in all of your experiences in your whole life, I wonder, could you share something that you believe is a universal truth? Maybe a lesson you've learned, or just something that you live by? A universal
Self
truth. Something good for anybody.
self caring. Self care is vital. Go get your hair cut. Treat yourself to a nice bubble bath with some relaxing music, really meditate and reflect and really care for yourself, because it's important. I have a personality, I know, where I tend to put others before me, and it has gotten me into real messed up places at times. And so lately, that's what I've been doing, is taking care of myself. Exercising. When you're on psych meds, you actually gain a lot of weight, and no one really tells you that. And I've actually lost 20 pounds since the beginning of this year. So, exercising, I exercise, but self-care, definitely, you got to love yourself, treat yourself. So, I would definitely advise
I've
that.
always believed that this is actually a universal truth. If I could just riff on your idea here a little bit, people say, you have to take care of yourself if you want to take care of somebody else. Like, you can't take care of anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself first. I don't know if that's what you mean, but I actually have always sort of looked at that as like a universal truth.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely right. Like, I've always had a habit of putting other people first. And lately I've been putting myself first by going to these support groups and making sure I stay on top of my medication and going to doctor's appointments. That's taking care of yourself, and you really can't help other people. So I don't even know what I was doing when I was putting all those people first. I was, I couldn't have been helping them, because I wasn't helping myself. And we were both like, it was the blind leading the blind out here. But, yeah, and I didn't really start looking into self-care until I was out in LA. When I went to LA one Christmas, I did go back home to England, and that was the first time I celebrated Christmas with my family over there in like 17 years. And unfortunately, that was the last Christmas I got to spend with my nan before she passed. And while I was there, like the first night, I went over to my brother's house, and my brother, he was hearing other things from our mom about the relationship that I was talking about earlier. And we were all going to bed. We had been up late talking, and, we have a couple of more days before we fly back out. And then I hear my brother say, or someone say to my brother, good night. And he was like, well, I got to have a talk. I have to go in here and talk. And I was like, oh no. So he came to me, and he was just like, what is happening? Like, you're not yourself. Like, you were so goal oriented, and I'm hearing about this relationship you're in. And that's when that plane ride from England back to LA, I was like, you have got to do something different. And so one day while I was back in LA, I went to a spiritual shop, and I was looking, I think, at a rose quartz gemstone. And the lady that worked there was like, yeah, this helps you self-care. And she was like, it's like, and I don't know her, and she doesn't know that I was just on a plane coming back from overseas. And she's like, yeah, it's like, self-care, if you're on a plane and the plane, God forbid, starts having malfunctioning and the masks come out, you have to put your mask on first in order to help other people. And I was like, how did I not know this? So yeah, it's definitely, it's very vital to recovery, and setting healthy boundaries and knowing what your triggers are as well. And that's where I'm currently at, is I'm learning.
God, what a great point to land on.
Yeah.
What a great point to land on, Asher. You've got to know what your triggers are. I feel like people walk around like I'm supposed to know what your trigger is.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm just living here. You know what your trigger is.
Yeah. It's all about
Asher,
self.
just one more thing.
Mm.
Can you leave us with some creature comforts? I feel like you're talking about self-care. Like what are some things, some products or items or a practice or something that just really that maybe calms you down or just makes you feel like yourself?
I'm learning to play the piano. A class that I took over back at the end of last year, we started, but my classes are only 4 weeks long. And I was like, there's no way. Like, I want to learn the piano. I'm not just here for 4 weeks. So playing the piano recently. And then a couple of, I've been, for years, I've been trying to save up for a PlayStation 5, and I finally got one a couple of months ago. So that's been my comfort. I've actually, I don't know if you know, but they actually have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game. So that's kind of been like, I've been online chatting with people. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like, and I've been playing that. And it's, so playing video games and working, with the piano and learning how to play I detach from whatever's like trying to weigh me down. So, yeah. Yeah, the game is very crazy.
You don't even hear yourself. That's so funny. I'm like, something that you use that just makes you feel like yourself. And you're like, well, there's this Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game. And I'll tell you what, if I'm not going to Vegas to relax, it's that metaverse that really puts me at ease.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I did get Spider-Man 2, and I probably need to start getting back on that. It's a wonderful game, but yeah, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I'm totally playing with you, Asher. You're certainly not unique in that. That's why they have those games. People love to play them. I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I feel like this year was definitely the year I'd get a PS5, so it's happened. So, yeah.
I want to thank Asher for telling this story today. Check out Asher's music on SoundCloud and on YouTube. Also, Necessary Delusion wise, there were a few. The one that really stood out to me was when Asher was talking about believing that music was the thing holding her back. I'm so glad that she didn't follow that idea, because it seems like it's something really healthy for her. But subscribe to the show because you found your people. And I am only having more and more compelling conversations with people that I meet from Craigslist all around the country. And don't forget to try to figure out what kind of earth monster you want to be. Get an idea and hang on to it tight, like a dog with a bone. Think it, feed it, do it. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. We will be back next week with more epic, everyday stories of success and redemption. You'll see me next time.